So this is an array. It happens to be an array of strings, but it could be an array of anything, right? It could have numbers in there. It could even have more arrays inside. It's just a collection of things. How do we loop over it? You know how to do that? Like with a for loop, you know, for loops. For I equals 0, I less than something, something. Well, that's the old way of doing it. You know a better way? Where you don't have to do all that I++ nonsense? Anybody aware of a new array? We got some good stuff in ES5 and newer. Anybody? Do you actually know something, Sam, or? I knew it at one point, but I forgot. Okay. Yeah. Ooh, for in. Yeah, that's a way. Let's see. JavaScript for in. Let's look at that. For in statement iterates over the enumerable properties of an object. So arrays are objects, so that it works on arrays too. But it's particularly handy for objects which are indexed by other things. Yeah, that totally works. There are some, let's see. I'm thinking there's something slightly, yeah. For in should not be used to iterate over an array where the index order is important. So it's going to treat those as strings, basically. And with objects, the order of the properties of an object are not guaranteed to be in order. So since this is basically treating arrays as an object, it's probably not the best way to loop over an array. But you can totally use this to loop over another kind of object. But there's something very similar to for in. Yeah. For each. Yeah, let's see if we can find out about that. Let's search MDN for each. Here we go, array prototype for each. The for each method executes a provided function once for each array element. So if you want to do the same thing to every item in an array, you can write a function that does that thing to the individual item and then pass that function into for each. Let's see. So suppose for each veggie, we want to spit out in the console a string that says, I heart whatever that veggie is. How's that? So we can write a function that does that. Function say we love whatever item. Take an argument called item. Console.log. Let's see. We can try to get fancy here. Where's the heart? We pig nose carrots. Oh, come on. Where's the dang heart? Not that. There we go. We heart item. So if we just said, say we love Stegosaurus, I'd get we heart Stegosaurus console log driver. Oh my gosh, why did I do that? Sometimes. There we go. Now we get we heart Stegosaurus, right? So according to the documentation, we should be able to say veggies dot for each, pass for each a function, and it's going to call that function, passing in each item of the array. So we expect it to call say we love 3 times, passing in corn the first time, carrots the second time, lettuce the third time. Think it's all true? Now, do I put the parentheses? What would happen if I put the parentheses? End of civilization? No, not quite that bad. What would happen? I get we heart undefined. Because what happened is I called say we love here, which returns nothing, So it returns undefined. So I just passed undefined into for each, in addition to console logging we hard undefined. So we want to pass the function itself as though it were any other kind of variable, right? So we pass in say we love, and then we get we love corn, we love carrots, we love lettuce. Make sense? Now that's not a function we're ever going to use again. So a lot of times for something like this, when you're just doing for each, it's very common to just write an anonymous function right there in place. Like this. Same thing. Works the same way. Works just as well. A little harder to read sometimes, but a lot of times this is the way you're going to want to do it because it's going to be perfectly obvious from this one-line function what it's doing. So this is a case where anonymous functions are very common. You just want to do the same thing to everything in an array. Just do it like this. There's another function that's really similar to for each. Anybody know what I'm thinking of? It's still, yeah. There's that too. Not the one I was thinking of. What it does is the one I'm thinking of. That's actually more similar to the one I'm thinking of. The one I'm thinking of performs the same function on every item in an array, and then it takes all the return values and builds a new array out of it. Anybody know what that is? Map. So right now, if I just stuck map in here instead of for each, we wouldn't see any difference. But map has a return value. It still calls that function on every item in the array, but it also has a return value. So let's figure out what that is. Const retval equals this, and then let's log the return value. What's it going to be? Undefined, undefined, undefined. Because it just takes the return value of this function for each item and builds a new array out of that. Didn't do us a whole lot of good here, but what if our function here, instead of console logging this, what if it returned it? Then the return value would be an array with we heart corn, we heart carrots, we heart lettuce. We'll be using map a lot when we get to React. I'm sort of in the habit of just using map whenever I want to use for each. Strictly speaking, it's unnecessary, but I just kind of ignore the return value. I don't actually want that array it's building. I just want it to do something with every item in the array, and map is shorter than for each. But if you don't want something with the return value, you could just use for each. Cool? Questions so far? Does this much make sense?